I say this a lot. I've made a lot of already rich people even richer, right? And
Right.
so as a community person, I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta because we're a service organization. As you know, as coming from a small community like Grambling, the give back is to really see people who are brilliant but just don't have access,
Yeah.
see them develop and thrive and grow their businesses into successful businesses and get a piece of the pie because it's out there. A lot of people right now, ask me, Carlisha, you have to come in and help us with develop our AI strategy. And my response is there's no such thing.
Mm.
It's your technology strategy and it may or may not have AI in it.
Who was Carlisha when she was a student at Grambling State?
Oh, wow. Uh Gosh. So, well,
I am not going to edit this out, by the way.
oh my goodness. Okay.
Welcome to another edition of HBCU Titans with Kenn Rashad, where we profile and highlight HBCU graduates who are doing magnificent things in the area of entrepreneurship, as well as corporate America in various positions. And my guest is no exception. As a matter of fact, when I came up with the concept of this particular podcast, and I created my short list of people who I wanted to target, without question, she was one of them. It was a no-brainer. And hopefully by the time this episode is over, you will understand and you will see why she is an HBCU Titan. She is an award-winning executive and technologist who spent more than 3 decades inside some of the most complex corners of the tech industry, building products, leading global teams, and transforming brands that millions of people depend on every day. But along the way, she also saw the gaps. Innovators with big ideas but no roadmaps, founders with passion but no product strategy, and talented teams without the guidance to scale or become acquisition ready. Today, she is the founder and CEO of CBR Ventures, a firm built to give startups real strategy, real structure, and the kind of product leadership that normally only the biggest companies can afford. Through her work, she's helping entrepreneurs innovate with confidence, navigate the world of technology without confusion, and turn good ideas into solutions that actually win in the marketplace. So without further ado, let's welcome to the stage a leader, a builder, a mentor, a D9 member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and a proud graduate of my alma mater, Grambling State University. Let's welcome to the stage the extraordinary, phenomenal Carlisha Robinson.
Love the applause. Love the applause. That's good. Nice audience you have here.
It's okay, right? Yeah. How you doing, my sister?
I am doing great. I can't complain, and I won't anyway because I don't have
Good.
anything to complain about.
Good,
It's
good.
been
I
a
hope
run.
I, ho- I hope the introduction was sufficient.
It was fantastic. I might I
Good.
might steal it and use it
Okay,
again.
good. And when you do, I want that check. Okay. Look, like I told you guys, I have known Carlisha for I don't know how long. Like I said, our time together goes not only to our childhood years, but her mother and my mama were like BFFs. And I'm telling you, that's how far back we go. Okay. So let's get back. Let's get to why we brought you on, Carlisha. So I want to start with what you're doing right now with CBR Ventures. One of the things that I've noticed, though, was that when you kind of announced that you were going on and to doing your own thing, you obviously took a leap from the C-level suite to entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
And, at that level, considering the amount of time that you've been doing this, what convinced you that now was the time to take that leap?
Yeah, so it's always been on my vision board. I have I'm a planner, I'm a product manager, so I constantly have a roadmap. And I also had a roadmap for my career. I had achieved the levels in corporate that I set out for myself. The C level was where I set out to be. I had the opportunity to do that. I was successful at that. And my next move was consulting in my own consulting firm and building my portfolio towards board director level seats. So I'm in the next step towards my ultimate goal, which is board level seats as well.
Okay. So talk a little bit about CBR Ventures.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, what is that, and how does it serve the clients or how does it benefit the clients that you serve?
Yeah, so CBR Ventures, and I named it Ventures because I wanted to have the autonomy for it to be many things, not just a consulting firm, but mentoring capabilities,
Mm,
media businesses and marketing businesses. So I wanted the ventures to really, that word represents adventure, right? Invention. So I
yeah,
wanted to
yeah.
name the business after my career, basically, which has not been just one thing. It's been many things. I have
Mm,
been in many industries, I've been in many roles. I've had the opportunity to work in startup companies and large corporate brands and big Fortune 100 companies. And to me, my experience is a venture. And so I wanted to bring all of that experience to the table for companies who are starting out, who have great innovation and great ideas, but they don't have deep pockets like
hmm
corporate has.
hmm
And how will they, especially women owned businesses, minority owned businesses, um, how are they going to excel to their true potential if they don't have access to the information that people like me who've been through it all have? And so that's why it was important for me to build that, to make myself available to them in a way that could help them really succeed past their potential.
So for the time that you've been doing this and the people that you've worked with up to this point, while I understand that what you do varies across many verticals and disciplines, if you will, is there maybe when you deal with some of these founders or these people who come up with these solutions and so forth, is there like maybe one or two common problems that you constantly come across? And if so, what is it?
Yeah, so my whole business, especially on the technical consulting and product consulting strategy realm, is really because most founders who have genius ideas, they got a great solution. They don't have um, the opportunity to really focus and develop their pace towards getting to that next level. So focus and pace are two things that I really work on. And they sound like really, really simple answers, but in a startup realm, that founder and that company has been granted by their investor, whether it's PE or VC backed, a final check
Hmm
that's giving them the opportunity to grow that business. And the business doesn't grow off of the idea alone. So I help founders and their partners figure out what their strategy should be for their roadmap to actually deliver the value back to the PE firm. Back, the
hmm
investors always want their money back, and
Right.
the founder always wants to be acquired or acknowledged as a unicorn in the industry. So
Hmm.
it's always focus and it's always pace, because there's a lot of distraction out there that will cause them to just build, 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 thinking people will come, and we all know that that's not really a recipe for success.
Is there a particular time frame in which when you take on someone a client, is there typically a time frame, say from beginning to end, and if so, what's the typical time frame from beginning to completion?
Yeah, so when I work with startup companies, I usually come in when they are in their Series B or Series C
Hmm.
fundraising round. So their idea is established. They've got some customers, and they're at a pivot point where they're ready to scale and grow into either a broader market or to a new market. And it's experience that helps them do that. And usually I come in when they're right at that point when they're really trying to hockey stick up.
hmm
And that takes not only the strategy, but it also takes marketing, it takes customer targeting, it takes research and an action plan for them to actually reach the audience in the way that is going to actually grow their business. And that takes a skill set that usually doesn't exist in smaller companies.
So when you bring them on, you talk about I guess they're at a certain point where they're at a certain point in terms of fundraising. Is there a particular financial benchmark that person needs to be at in order for you to work with them?
They're usually at the 10 to $50 million mark.
Okay. Okay.
And they've gotten funding that is going to enable them to, hire in a few more people. They've gotten funding that's going to allow them to start to really market and brand their innovation. And it's usually, like I said, the last round of funding that they're going to get.
Yeah.
And now their business is depending on their customers to be a part of their revenue stream, not just investor money being dropped in to help support that venture. So they're looking for that level of growth, and they're looking for customer revenue to become a significant portion of their balance sheet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Hey folks, Kenn Rashad. We'll get back to the show in just a second, but I've got to take a quick pause just to put something on your radar. My business coach, Dr. Myron Golden, is hosting his next Make More Offers Challenge. And if you're serious about growing your business, scaling your income, and creating lasting impact, this is the place to be. It's 5 days of high-level teachings that'll show you how to structure, price, and position offers that don't just sell, but they help your business grow with purpose. I've been through this challenge myself, and it completely shifted the way I think about business, from how I build to how I serve. So do yourself a favor, go to offers.kennrashad.com and secure your spot for the next Make More Offers Challenge. Now let's get back to the show. So when you took this leap of faith, if you will, to start your own firm, have there been any, I guess, early wins that, well, first of all, were there any nerves? I mean, how confident were you that this would work out? And the reason why I asked, and I want you to answer, the reason why I asked is because someone looks at your profile and they see your body of work, they would look at you and they were like, why? I mean, she's award winning, by the way, and we'll get into that later. But why would she do whatever she's doing and making whatever she's making to stop doing that and go into this? And I guess what I want to know is, since you started, have there been any early wins that have kind of convinced you that, yes, I've made the right move?
So, I mean, I'll answer the why first.
One,
it started with kind of the burnout. Once you have achieved the level, being very successful at that level, I kind of like to walk out on top a little bit, as well, and go out with successes, behind me. But I also wanted to get into a point where I could provide the value that I brought to many corporate environments, to smaller businesses where it means something more. Mm-hmm. I say this a lot. I've made a lot of already rich people even richer, right? And so as a community person, I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta because we're a service organization. As coming from a small community like Grambling, the give back is to really see people who are brilliant but just don't have access. Yeah. See them develop and thrive and grow their businesses into successful businesses and get a piece of the pie because it's out there, for them. That was my why. And as we see what's happening in our world right now and seeing some of that access and that opportunity being taken away, it made me even more adamant about now is the time. Because while we can take away DEI as an acronym, as a term, as a program in companies, what you can't take away is the knowledge and the information that I have and the experience that I have, and I can use that however I want. And so I'm choosing now to use that to help people who have been denied that access get further along in their corporate, in their entrepreneurial journeys.
Since you brought that up, Carlisha, you talk about DEI and the fact that it's the titles have changed to whatever they're supposed to be now. It's changed so much until I don't know what to call it. But How difficult, if any, has that been for you in terms of what you do for your clients? Has it made the process more difficult for you?
It hasn't for me particularly, not at this point, and I think that's because one, I'm in Austin. I'm in a community
Mm,
of high tech.
yep.
It's a high tech environment. It's a city that is thriving with technology startups. So I'm in the right place. Um, I've also been in doing this for 30 years, 30 plus years. So I'm not unknown in the community either. So it helps that I have the experience and I have a network and relationships. But it has impacted people, in not me in the sense that opportunities aren't available for me. It's impacted the people who are in the companies and them having the budgets and the dollars to spend on consulting, just period.
Hmm.
Right. So there is always a trickle down impact when access and opportunity gets pulled from the table. People have to really think about how they're spending their money. Tariffs and the economy and all those things all affect how people choose to spend, and people have to really be able to see the value in that spend before they will pull the trigger on things now. So that's been the effect.
Over the 30 years, and we might as well just get into it because people may not necessarily know. I want to drop. We're gonna drop some names. Okay. Bed Bath and Beyond, and I'm not going in particular order because it's Bed Bath and feel free to let me know where I've missed out. Bed Bath and Beyond, Zulily,
Hmm.
what else?
Overstock,
Overstock. Go ahead.
BMC Software,
Oh my God, keep it going.
IBM,
Oh. Any more you want to
CBA.
add?
Yeah.
The
Yes.
reason the re-
Yeah.
I wanted people to just kind of get a feel that when I'm talking to someone here who that when I reached out and say, hey, I want to interview you, and I'm like, here are my times, and it's like that doesn't work for me, and that doesn't work for me, and that doesn't work for me. This is what will work for me, and I want you to know, and I want you to know, every date or every time that you gave me didn't work for me, but I had to make it work because otherwise this wouldn't have gotten done. That's just how important this sister is. I just want you to know that. And I've been knowing her forever. And the
I'll put you
missus, of course, and she's like, oh, we can put that off. We can do that. Give
I'll fit you in. I'll
I'm
fit
just
you
want you,
in.
yeah, that's exactly what she's doing. She didn't fit me in, but I had to fit her in because otherwise this wasn't gonna happen. All right. So let me just the reason why I wanted you to bring up those company names is because recently, now I'm not you had won the 2025 top CPO award.
Hmm.
Now, look, I don't, I'm a journalist by trade, and I don't necessarily spend a whole lot of time in the technology field. But from the sounds of it, that's a pretty big deal. So, what
Yeah.
exactly is the CPO award, and just how big is that, and what does that mean?
Yeah, so CPO, Chief Product Officer.
Yes.
And so I was nominated through a process that started back in 2024 for the top CPO, and they're the top 100 basically. So it's a top 100 kind of list,
Hmm.
and you get nominated for it, and then you go through, like any other nomination process, a series of cuts, and to get to the top 100. And so I made it into that list, and I was very excited to be considered in the top 100. I was even more overjoyed to be in the top 25 of that, and so it was shocking because I didn't know. I didn't nominate myself. Someone else nominated me, and it's kind of anonymous. I'm
Oh,
guessing that
you,
it was.
you you still don't know who nominated you?
They won't own up to it, but I am pretty sure that it was someone from my
Okay.
Bed Bath and Beyond
Yeah.
Overstock family, um, and so no one will fess up to it. But that process was really interesting when you go through you make it to the finals, and then you go through this interview series and you talk to various people, And you know how you're just busy working, doing what you do, but you're not thinking about it in an award sense,
Yeah.
and so as I started interviewing and talking with people, and the interviewers would go, you've done what, you're in retail now, but you've been in, in IT, back office software and SaaS solutions and intellectual property, and so as I'm going through kind of my history and you play it back, um, I was like, oh, maybe I am kind of cool, but I'm thinking, everybody that's been nominated has done a wealth of things like this. So I'm
Hmm.
thinking, this is a class of people who've done just what I've done, and to make it to the top quartile of that, it was exciting for me to realize that the way I've moved around my ventures,
Yeah.
in my career, and not being afraid to go from industry to industry and learn different things, and but still operate at a very, very high level. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So the CPO award was kind of a culmination, I think, of all the years of of being, in product management in five different industries in my career. And so that's what made it really, really exciting for me.
Fractional CPO. That's a thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What is kind of like the one thing people misunderstand about what a fractional CPO actually does?
Yeah. So a fractional officer period, whether it's, what's
Oh, okay.
common out there.
Okay. That's
Yeah. So a
regardless. Okay.
fractional officer, whether it's a fractional CFO, fractional chief marketing officer, fractional executive period, is it's that position really on a percentage basis. Most of the time you spend, 1 or 2 days a week working with that company in that capacity. So they just don't have you full time. And they're paying you on a consultant, basis. It's usually retainer based or hourly kind of basis, and you don't work for the company, so to speak. You're essentially a consultant. Fractional product officers are starting to become very common in the space, again, because of the reason that there's a lot of innovation happening right now, and that innovation is not necessarily coming from, the Metas and the Googles and the,
Right.
and
Right.
of the world. It's coming from smaller companies that are grassroots and that are starting to, grow up. And so having a, chief product officer, they wouldn't even have a chief product officer. They
Yeah.
may have a product management manager or a director, perhaps, if they're structured enough. But to have someone with my years of experience in their business, even if it's just 1 or 2 days a week, is more valuable than potentially having someone there 5 or 7 days a week if they're a startup company.
Yeah.
So
You talk about, again, and we'll keep emphasizing this, the 30 years of corporate experience that you do have. Is there any particular um, part of your corporate experience that maybe shaped you the most for what you're doing right now? Is there a particular area that made
yeah,
you get you to this
yeah.
point?
Yes, I think two things really happened early in my career. I left Grambling. I interned with IBM throughout college,
Mm.
and when leaving Grambling, you get the job and you start at IBM. And so I went to IBM out of college, thinking that I'm going to retire from here. Nobody leaves IBM.
Right.
And 5 years, 4 or 5 years into it, I thought IBM is too big of a company, for
Mm.
me, and I don't want to just program. My personality is too big to be for just programming. I don't want to sit and kind of have a very specific tunnel vision view. I want it to be more with customers and more with the people. So, an opportunity with BMC Software came up. And my mother. So when I told her I was leaving IBM to go to BMC, she was like, "Are you crazy? Nobody leaves
Nobody
IBM.
leaves
And what
IBM.
the hell is a BMC? Never heard of it, right?" So, so she was not happy with that decision. But it was my 20 years almost at BMC that was the shaping time for
Hmm.
me. And what I got at BMC was not only some phenomenal mentors that understood that I wanted to try a bunch of different things. I had 10, 11 different roles in that 19 and a half years that I was at BMC. So every couple of years, I transitioned into something else. I wanted to learn about every part of the business. So I did, QA, I did development, I did consulting, I did professional services, I did customer support. I
Yeah.
was, I did product management. It's where I learned product management at BMC. I actually started the product management organization at BMC in my career. And when I got to product management, that was the thing that said, this is it. Because it's the intersection between the business strategy and the product development strategy.
Mm-hmm.
The customer sits in the middle of that. And it's the why are we building what we're building? Who are we building it for? What real problem are we solving that customers are going to pay top dollar for? So it was that time that said, okay, I finally found it. But BMC allowed me to move about the company and do different things and discover what I really, really loved and what I really, really was good at. So that was the pivotal point for me.
You mentioned previously you live in Austin, and which
Mm-hmm.
I think we all agree is kind of like what you would call probably the technology hub or the Silicon Valley of the South, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I think as we look at the world of technology as we know it, and while there may have been tremendous strides that have gotten us to the point to where now more and more people who look like us are in the fields, I think it would be. I think you would agree with me. It would be safe for me to say that you being a Black woman in tech is kind of a unicorn. And
Yep.
while again we see people in these high level positions with various companies, it still pales in comparisons to what mainstream or what we see in the technology sector in mainstream corporate America, if you will. At what point did you realize that the rules were different for Black women in tech?
Actually, really early,
Mm-hmm.
because even out of college, there weren't a lot of Black women,
Yeah.
in tech. There weren't, even at coming out of college in IBM, and IBM was recruiting from an HBCU. Um, there were maybe 30 of us that were in that little cohort that were interning, but we didn't all go to the same place. We all got spread out across all the IBM, locations across the states. So each time we showed up, it was only kind of one of us,
Yeah.
and there may have, been a couple of, Black men.
Mm.
But for the most part, it was just one. So I've always been very much the only one, maybe two, if we're lucky, right? And so I realized really early that I've got a responsibility while I'm in the space to help change the narrative around what the corporate environment thinks of Black women in tech.
Yeah.
Um, it's my responsibility to make sure that we're seeking more and purposefully, intentionally going to try to find and hire more, because the brilliance is there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's my responsibility to do that. But it's been different out the gate.
Yeah.
The classic things, happen with being underpaid, being overlooked for, promotions and things like that, being underestimated, being undervalued. All of those things happened, in my career. And throughout those challenges, I've had to fight every single time to make sure that I am getting what I am due, and not being afraid to ask for it, whether someone wants to label me as an angry Black woman or not.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Pay me what you owe me, right?
Mm. Right.
So
Right.
yeah, and so so I'm always keeping good records because I'm
Right.
delivering, and so then you should deliver as well. So that has been, it's been that way the whole time. It's still that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, you say it's still that way, but is there progress being made, and if so, at what rate?
There's progress,
Hmm.
but
I'm
it's
guessing
way
they're
too
not
slow.
fast enough, though, right?
Yeah, it's way
Yeah,
too
yeah,
slow, and
yeah.
there's progress because you can see that there's me and there's a few more of me out there. The 1.5% of, if that, of corporate executives are Black,
Wow.
number
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
and there's a smaller percentage of that that's
Black
women.
women. Yeah,
So progress, okay, we there's some, but it's not fast enough, and it's only slowing down now because we keep getting these systemic barriers placed in front of us that slow things down even more. So companies that are not looking at diversity inclusion as a bad thing, they're
yeah,
having to come up with other ways to be inclusive and hire the best talent. Studies show, and we know this, that a diversified team of all ethnicities,
yep,
genders, and all that, they make more money. They are more productive. They
yeah.
they bring in more money for the companies. And so when it comes down to the green being the bottom line, you would think
You
that
would
that
think,
would be,
yep, absolutely,
you know,
yeah. You
but
you say that, and it reminds me of something I think Mark Cuban actually went on record to talk about how him being proactive with DEI and the benefits that he's been able to get out of being proactive and making sure that his company was diverse. And he's indicated basically in all of his business ventures that it has paid off. And
mhm,
you would think a billionaire like Mark Cuban, who many people supposedly appreciate and admire, you would
mhm,
think that they would take the time to kind of, do what he
to mimic
does. But
that, or
apparently
yeah,
there's just not
yeah,
enough people doing that.
yeah.
So let's start sidestep for a moment because that's all important. We're going to get back to that. But let's pivot to a subject that you and I, something that is near and dear to our heart, and that is Grambling State University. After
Yes.
all, this is HBCU Titans, and so what would a podcast be by HBCU Titans if we didn't talk about our formative years at HBCUs, right? Um, I know the answer to this, but what led you to go to Grambling? For people who don't know,
So yeah, I mean, it is in my blood. Number
right?
one, I mean, it's in the blood. It's a
Literally,
family tradition, like literally in the blood, family tradition. I keep my tiger and my elephant on the wall behind me so everybody will know that this is what I'm repping, right? So on every business call, the tiger
they
and the
see it.
elephant, and I just can't wait for somebody to ask me, what does that mean? So I can tell them, right? So yeah, so it's in the blood. My family is from Grambling. Many
As
of
is
my
mine. Yep, go ahead.
attended Grambling. Yeah. Some of us
As did
moved out to
mine,
LA,
right?
some of us moved to California, and then we came right back.
As did I.
Oh, Green
I'm
Acres.
sorry, but when I
Yeah,
told you
yeah,
guys we had a lot in common, y'all thought I was just saying this. This is literally how it is in our family. I'm
oh,
telling you
yes.
this. But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, Grambling's in the blood. But the other reason was I had opportunities to go other places. I could
Mm-hmm.
have gone to UCLA. I could have gone to, because I thought I'm going back to Cali.
Oh
Like, nah, I don't think so. So I could have gone to other schools. Um, but there was something about the way the Grambling High School and the Grambling community and Grambling State was pouring into my development early on, helping me figure out what do I want to do in college, and figuring out that math and computers and math and sciences were my strong suits. Like, what do I do with that? And so the Grambling community, the people, the professors on the campus that taught prep classes for us, those individuals were, they were not just mentors, they were sponsors of you. They really were wanting you to not only come to Grambling, but come to Grambling and be successful.
yeah.
So that kind of, transitioning from high school to college is a huge transition for anyone. Transitioning from high school to college in a college town
Yes.
is a very different feeling. You walk in feeling like you've got support, and you're prepared. And Grambling had a great and has a great computer science and math, program, and it was just a no-brainer.
Yeah. So
No-brainer for me.
let's speak a little bit more about that, because obviously when you took your courses, you were what, computer science and math, right? Major?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when you would go into those classrooms, obviously you went to classroom buildings and classrooms with students who looked like us,
Mm-hmm.
instructors that looked like us for the most part. You mentioned that you had internships pretty much all throughout the time that you were at Grambling. Talk about your experience interning as a student from Grambling compared to, say, when you went to like IBM and you see some of these other interns from other schools, PWIs, if you will.
Yeah.
Talk about that experience. I mean, did you find anything unique about it? Did you find yourself kind of like feeling at a disadvantage? Kind of talk about your personal experience, because obviously I was in a completely different field and I know nothing about that. So I'm interested to know what your experience was like as an intern coming from an HBCU during those times that you served with those at those corporations.
Going into it initially, very nervous, thinking that because this is the big, PWI, Rutgers and and all the big schools, North Carolina and all of these, they were just, especially going to my first internship was in Raleigh in Research Triangle Park in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So you had your Dukes and all of those schools, NC State and Chapel, all of those schools right there, and they were in the programs too. So I went in thinking that they would know more than I knew, and that they would be smarter somehow, because at this point you're drinking the Kool-Aid, right? You're thinking because you're at little old Grambling, right, then they're going to have some advantage. But the reality was they actually did not. I was over-prepared for the internship, and not just from a academic perspective, from a resource perspective, not resources, but resourcing. Mm-hmm. I knew how to network. I knew how to talk to people. I knew how to engage with people. I wasn't just book smart. I already had some professionalism kind of built into me. Dr. Lonnie Smith at Grambling State University was like,
Lonnie Smith,
you will not get to any corporate environment and embarrass Grambling State University. So when I got there and realized, oh shoot, I'm more than ready. I am more than prepared to be in this space, and I deserve to be here. They're not smarter than me. They're not better than I am. They're not any. I have no reason to feel uncomfortable, here. And it took that one time and realizing that the first time, it was on from there. I realized in that moment that I don't have to fear being in the room, mm-hmm, because I should be in the room.
Yeah, right. So let me ask you this. Would you say that, and I don't know if you can necessarily speak to this or not, but when you did these internships, did you happen to come across any other interns that went to any other HBCUs while you were there, or were you kind of like the only one who, based upon what you did or what you were doing at the time? Did you come across any other interns from HBCUs?
So yeah, there were others as well. It'd always be it would be one or two, from another, HBCU. When we interned at, this was fun. I mentioned Rutgers before because I did intern one summer with Bell Labs in Piscataway, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And there were students from Grambling, Prairie View, Jackson, so that there was an intentional go get them from the SWAC,
right.
Mississippi, Valley. There were people from all the different SWAC schools that were there, and of course from the MEAC schools, from Howard, from A&M, from Florida A&M, from North Carolina A&T. So there was a collection, kind of us that summer, and we all stayed on Rutgers campus, which was really, really, which was really,
Yeah.
really cool.
You say that, and I remember a lot of students who in turn talked about how they stayed on
Yeah,
Rutgers campus. Yeah, I
yeah,
remember that.
and that was fun. And it was fun because it was like that was the first time that all of us had been in a scenario. We were all kind of in the same community,
Yeah.
doing the same thing and learning the same things together. But it also was a good learning experience because while we were working under the same program, we weren't working all together. We were working with different people from
Right.
different
Yeah.
other schools, other PWIs, and so that collective experience was also, very. It was confirming. It was
Yeah.
very confirming that HBCUs are putting out excellent students through their programs.
Fi-
And so yeah. Go ahead.
Final question about you and your Grambling experience. I'm gonna put you on the spot just a little bit because I already
All
know
right.
the answer to this. Who was Carlisha when she was a student at Grambling State?
Oh, wow. Uh, Gosh. So, well,
I am not gonna edit this out, by the way.
oh my goodness. Okay. So who was I? I was a very good student. I was
Mm-hmm.
always a good student. Um, and I was a good partier. So so I was very good at time management. So I have people that said, "How are you graduating and you were at every party that I was at and you were into?" It's like time management. I'm getting it all done.
Oh boy. Okay. It's
Yeah,
taking everything into me not to share any more stories, but we're gonna stop that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So
So
let's
oh yeah.
right.
But I was on a mission. I had purpose. I was getting in, and I was gonna get out of there, get out of Grambling, and go do something that I thought was going to be bigger than Grambling at the time. And then I don't necessarily think that anymore. But at the time when you're a student in Grambling and it's such a small community, you're thinking there's a whole world out there and it's not right there in Grambling. But
Yeah.
technically it was because all of those students that came in from the whole world
Right.
brought the world into Grambling. So
Right.
that
Yeah.
was huge. Yeah.
Beautifully
Huge, huge
said.
separation.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautifully said. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because people would
Yeah.
be, and I'll just say this real quick, because people who only heard about Grambling but had never visited the campus and were excited to attend, I think you may relate. There have been people who talk about the stories and they say they get to Grambling's campus and then they get there and they start crying because they didn't
Yeah.
realize what they was out in the middle of nowhere, like you said.
Yes.
But the world came to Grambling, and before you know it, school gets out, you can't wait to get home, and then you get home and you can't wait till school gets
Can't wait
back
to
in so
get
you can
back.
get back to school. So
Yeah.
yeah. In 1949, Paul Tank Younger, a fullback from Grambling, signed with the Los Angeles Rams as an undrafted free agent. He went on to become a 4-time Pro Bowler and later became the NFL's first black front office executive. But the way he got there says even more. When the Rams sent a scout to sign him, the offer was for $4,000. Not because he wasn't worth more, but because they thought paying the minimum would improve his odds of just making the team. But that's when Grambling coach Eddie Robinson stepped in. He pushed back by saying, look, give him $6,000. And if he isn't good enough, cut him. That single moment mattered. It wasn't just about Tank Younger. It was about HBCUs demanding respect at a time when the rest of college football was still wrestling with integration. Stories like this are why I wrote the book, HBCU Sports 101, a guide to understanding black college athletics. Because it's bigger than just stats and scores. It's about culture, legacy, and the people who changed the game. You can get your copy now at KennRashad.com, signed bundles, the ebook, and more, or pick it up on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other places where books are sold. So let's go ahead and talk about, let's go back into the tech world again, because this is something I wanted to ask you too. With AI being what it is right now, talk about its importance and how it's now kind of like the focal point for all things tech, all things startups, and so forth. Talk about the impact AI, even cybersecurity, if you will, the role that it's playing, and I guess what shift do you see coming that entrepreneurs should prepare for, given where we are right now with AI and cybersecurity being what it is?
Yeah, so great question. I a lot of people right now, ask me, Carlisha, you have to come in and help us with our develop our AI strategy. And my response is there's no such thing.
Mm,
It's your technology strategy, and it may or may not have AI in it because AI is the latest, you know, massive innovation in the tech space. We have been living through tech innovations for years.
hmm
This is just the next tech bubble. Now it is definitely more pervasive. I say AI is as pervasive as
hmm
water
hmm
because it has seeped into everything. And the difference between AI adoption, which only took about 3 years, versus the World Wide Web internet adoption, which took 20 years,
mm,
is that AI came out at a time where all of those other infrastructures were already in place that allowed AI to be something that people use personally, for play and fun, and also that people were depending on for professionally for work and advancement in a corporation. And so everybody is able to access AI, whereas when the internet came out, everybody wasn't able to access the internet. We still have places in the country and in the world that don't have good access to the internet,
mm.
right? So AI is a game changer, and it is actually going to do what technology is intended to do, which is automate and take take away tasks that are typically manually done and usually take time and human hands and brains to do. AI will take some of those tasks away and automate them. That's what technology does, period.
Hmm.
Technology does automate. AI is no different from that, with the exception of its rate of adoption and speed.
You, with your experience, and this kind of go to your experience with respect to products and so forth. What is the simplest way, if there is a simple way to tell if a product is actually, if a product idea is actually worth pursuing? Is there any particular metric for that?
Well, the root of it is who's the customer? Does somebody need this?
Mm,
Does it solve a problem in a unique way that is valuable, right? Is it a valuable solution? Are there enough people in the world? And I say the world because your solution shouldn't be necessarily rooted to just the
right.
U.S. You should be thinking globally and things like that. But is the problem that this solution solves one that is pervasive enough? Again, that word that that makes it worth investing in.
Yeah.
Um, and because you'll see a lot, that's why a lot of startup companies, even private investors will tell you this, or VC investors will tell you this. They may invest in 10 companies, but
Yeah.
they know only two of them are going to make
Mm,
it. You
mm,
know, 70 to 80% of those companies are not going to develop into, they're going to be losses. But the two that are
yeah.
going to basically make up the difference for the losses that happen with the other eight or seven or eight that don't make it.
So let me ask you this, Carlisha. If that's the case, then why would they take the time to invest? Or is it that it's still too early for them to determine whether or not it's going to make it or not?
Well, because it's a great idea, right? That the ideation, the idea itself is not necessarily that it's bad, but sometimes is the market ready for this? Like,
Ah,
so for
gotcha.
example,
Okay.
going back to AI has been around
Yeah.
for years.
Yes.
AI was, just so people understand, when you started getting those little squiggly lines in Microsoft Word, that was AI, learning how to spell, learning how you write and things like that. So, telling you that your grammar, first it just started telling you about your misspellings.
Yeah.
Then it started telling you about your grammar. Then it started suggesting the ends of your sentences, and right. So,
Mm,
so that's been AI. AI has been here for a really, really long time, but it has not been exposed in the way that it is right
right.
now.
Right. And
You
people have
know,
been using it just like you said, and
and
just
people
didn't
have
even
been using
realize it
it.
was that they were
Yeah,
using it. Yeah.
and just didn't know what they were using. And now it has a name, and it's marketed, so it's out. It's out there. So now people go, oh, what is this thing? I'm either excited about it, or I'm afraid of it. There's nobody in the middle, right? They're
Right.
either
Right.
completely excited or they're completely, terrified of it. But in terms of the risk, right? You mentioned cybersecurity and risk and things like that. AI being so open, um, to basically anybody, that does increase security risks, not just because people are putting things that are private into AI engines,
Yeah.
but because they're putting, because not everything, or not every AI has the strictest standards in
Yes.
terms of securing your data and your
Right.
information.
Right.
So it just opens up additional risk for corporations to have to consider. They have to consider, how are my people, my employees, using AI, because you must assume that they are. I think they'd be crazy not to. If you've got a big project to do and you had a lot of data to research, yeah, cut that short, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and use AI to, which is the power of it, to take a lot of data and synthesize it.
Hmm.
Why not? But some of that data in specific in industries, in particular, could be sensitive data, and that could be problematic for the company. So it does introduce risk, and companies are having to figure out how to lock down AI, or to use approved versions of AI within their firewall to prevent their data from getting outside into the wild.
Yeah. I want to go back real quick to the steps that you took when you started with CBR Ventures. Because it's always said that, whether it be a product or service or whatever the case may be, it's always been said that you ultimately, the solution is to find a solution for a pain that someone is currently going through, or whatever, a group of people that may not necessarily exist. And I'm guessing, are there similar firms? I mean, you're
Oh
not.
yeah.
Is this right? So what was it, or what is it about CBR Ventures that you think is unique to maybe what other, your competitors or other consulting firms are doing out there? What makes it so unique?
I think what's more unique about the way, CBR Ventures, is the approach. The approach for product strategy is very holistic. It's not just about the product, and that product could be a tangible product, or it could be a service that's being provided. But how does that product connect to or support the actual business? Like, what is the business really trying to achieve? And does the overall strategy, um, actually encompass an end-to-end strategy that is not just about the product, but about the customer? How are you communicating with the customer? And is there an opportunity to actually have focus groups with the customer and understand what their true pain point is? Because a lot of times the innovation starts out because it's just a good idea, and you're sometimes trying to find who to fit the idea to. Like AI can solve a lot of problems, but what problem is it going to be the best solution for? That is still being figured out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's, so what's unique about CBR Ventures is that process of really discovering the actual product to customer connection.
Okay.
and and
Uh,
as a and as a consultant, I tell people that I am passionate about three things: people, products, and problem
mm,
solving.
okay.
And those are the layers that we're talking about. Who is this product for? What problem are we solving, and for whom? Who are the people that will get the most benefit from this?
We've used the term, and I think I've read it somewhere, the term acquisition ready.
Hmm.
What does acquisition ready truly mean for a startup? And I mean, what needs to be in place for that to be a thing, if you will?
Yeah. So it starts out with the good. Again, we're back to, this is a great innovation,
Yeah.
right? And it is an innovation that is either unique, and it doesn't have to be unique. It is either unique or it is not unique. There are other ones out there, but it is differentiated and better than the other ones that are out there, because of its ability to connect into somebody else's environment, somebody else's business. When someone is acquiring you, you are filling in a piece of something that's missing from their overall technology stack.
Mhm.
So how adaptable is your solution to be able to plug in and actually play with who's acquiring you? So it starts with the product. The other is, what is the are you financially um, sound? I can actually acquire you kind of outright,
Yeah.
and I'm not having to pay off excessive debts, and and things like that, and the people that you have working for the company that built this are also going to be good assets. Like, your company is a good asset from a financial standpoint, and the people that have the knowledge about your product are also going to be assets to the acquirer's business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So few more questions, because I know we've got we got time limits. Believe me, she will cut me off. We got a hard cutoff. I'm just saying, she gonna
She
kill me
runs the
when we stop
world.
recording.
She
Anyway,
runs. Yeah.
okay. Let me ask you, as it relates to the tech space, and we've got this, this tech driven these tech driven leadership roles. As it relates to HBCUs, what responsibilities do HBCU graduates carry as we kind of enter into this new world of technology?
Yeah, so starting with the HBCU is that we have to make sure that all of our curriculums
Yeah.
are up to date and up to par with the world, with where the world is. And so I think one of the challenges that any school, any curriculum has, is no curriculum is moving at the pace of innovation right now.
Hmm. Yeah, and
And so an
that's
opportunity,
regardless any school, right? Yeah.
any school, because
Yeah.
curriculums get developed,
Yep.
and we are accustomed to them being developed, put in place,
Yep.
and that same curriculum for that degree has been essentially the same for decades, right? But now we have to question, does that really serve the student, and does it actually serve the working community well at this point? Because the rate of change in the world in technology is so fast now, we need to really reevaluate, are our curriculums keeping up with that? Are
Yeah.
we graduating students who are ready to come out of college with their bachelor's, degrees, and get right into the pace of the corporate world right now in tech? And I think we have to question whether or not that's really happening. And I think an opportunity for HBCUs would be to be the place where that curriculum um, advancement is happening at the pace of technology advancement.
Like I said, Carlisha, you without question are a titan based upon what you've done in the corporate space and what you're doing right now. And as it relates to CBR Ventures, and I know you really put a lot of emphasis in the lack of Black women in the tech space. Given what the purpose and mission of CBR Ventures is now, what does it mean, or what would you like it to mean for Black women, say 10 years from now? What impact would you like for it to have? Whether it relates to service, whether it relates to just entrepreneurship, just kind of going your way, what impact would you like for it to have?
I would like for it to have an impact on all of those, on both of those. Service in particular, because while I'm not solely focused on women and minority-owned businesses, because I'm a business person, so I'm going where the business need is. I'm very much seeking out opportunities to help women-owned and minority-owned businesses, and that's the part of kind of the give back, right? The service isn't necessarily free, but
Yeah.
I'm focused on that community to build and to build that community of businesses up. So the service part is important. In terms of entrepreneurship, I think it is important for us to recognize that sometimes when corporate America is purposefully trying to push you out, then hang your own flag and go and build your own. Because as a community of Black people, that's really going to be the way that we survive through times like now, when we are, able to support ourselves and building wealth for our families. That the generational wealth gap is enormous, and entrepreneurship is a way for us to close that gap for our community and for our families. And so I would want to be an example for people to go, yeah, I can do this too, and I can be a part of that wealth gap closing, solution. So that's what I would want to happen and want to see happen.
Real quick, and I probably should have asked you this question earlier, but and I intended to, and I think knowing me, I messed it up and took you off track. But that's my fault. When you made the decision, because I wanted to ask you this earlier, when you made the decision to take the step to start CBR Ventures, were you nervous? Were you uncomfortable? Were there doubts as to whether or not? Talk about that experience real quick.
Yeah. So, terrified, and I'll tell you why. When I created my LLC for CBR Ventures years ago, because again, this was always a part of my plan, right? So I set up the structure years ago, and started doing some small consulting with businesses, just to kind of get a feel for how that would work and understand things. But I wasn't committed to it holistically. You get terrified for a couple of reasons. One is you're cutting off a really, really big check.
I know, cutting off a
really big check, to kind of start over, to start from the bottom. And that's terrifying for anybody. But you plan for that, you save for that, you have family. My husband is supportive of all of that, so that helps in that financial transition. The other thing is just naturally going, that's the devil, right? What if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work? But the devil is just over there trying to steal joy. And the answer is, if it doesn't work, then you're talented, you smart, you can figure it out, you have options.
Yeah.
You have options. And so I always just kind of lean back on what got me through all of the corporate structure environments and all of the issues and situations and and growth and promotions and all the things. It's the same kind of grit and grind that I'm going to have to do, but for my own flag. And so I know how to do it, and so and those are the things that just keep me saying, yeah, it's going to be fine.
And how long are you into this journey since you started?
Like not even a year.
That's what I thought. Not quite a year yet.
It'll be a year in March.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to answer this question.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to. This is why I had you fill out this questionnaire before we got on. Okay. Mm-hmm. I've asked some of the guests that I've had in the past, like for instance, Kenn Rashad show, I had a 25-year-old who created a multi-million-dollar app and is literally going into his second round of funding. And he talks about how he left his job at a firm making 25 now, but making $200,000 a year. And he decided to leave that to start this app. And they've been similar. But because this episode and this show is about inspiring individuals to kind of take that step, depending on, regardless of where they are, maybe in their walk and during their journey, if you don't mind, because you talked about those big checks at the corporations in which you work. What exactly, if you don't mind, were you walking away from when you decided to take this step in terms of, say, ballpark salary, if you don't mind sharing with us, kind of, sort of? $450
plus. Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And you just said you're just going to leave that alone and just go ahead and start.
Well, so some things happen in two ways. One is I'm just leaving on my own. What is it? Volition.
Volition.
What's the word?
Yeah, volition.
Yeah. Okay. Couldn't say it. Can't spell it. So leaving, and now it's just the time, and I'm out. or there's a corporate shakeup and shift that's
Gotcha.
happening, and
Gotcha.
you go,
Mm.
okay, this
This
is
is the
not
time. Yeah.
this is not going in the way that I am comfortable. And and sometimes the Lord will just push, give you a little shove. And so that was kind of where that was. And it's like, all right, so what the decision was is I'm not going back in.
Right.
Like,
Gotcha.
okay, so this is it. I'm not going back in. So yeah, so I've got a little ways to go to
Yeah.
get back,
Right.
to where that is. But I also, see the opportunity, see the money. It's out there,
Yeah.
and it's just, go Tiger, go get it.
Right. So final question, and I'll let you go. So given where you are, you're 7 months into this journey.
Mhm.
Are you kind of like where you expect to be at this point? Are you kind of behind? Are you ahead? Kind of
Um,
analyze where you are right now, given what
so
seven,
yeah,
8 months in.
I would say I'm kind of where I expect it to be,
Okay.
with a little bit of learning. And the
Mm.
learning is that it is that this entrepreneurial kind of it's a bit of an ebb and flow. There's a bit of a
Yeah.
roller coaster. Yeah, and you
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah.
There's
I
a roller
do. I do.
that happens.
Yeah.
And just because you get your, like in my case, your first consulting, project, kind of right out the gate, doesn't necessarily mean that there's 10 more stacked up and you got
Right.
so many rolling in
Right.
that you got
Right.
to push stuff away, right? And so you're kind of you learn to navigate the dollars coming in. You really learn to manage your money
Yeah.
when it's an inconsistent flow, and when you've been used to paychecks coming in hitting the bank every two
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
It's a different environment
Yeah.
when that changes and there's a gap, and there's no ding from the bank account, kind of thing. So, or it's a shift when you also get a just a lump sum drop, and then you've
Yeah.
got to you
You
know
got to stretch. Make sure
you got to
come up
yeah
with
you got to
stretch that
manage
out.
that
Right.
stretch. Yeah, you got to manage that stretch.
I
So
know it
so
all too well.
yeah.
So
No, you do.
yeah, I do. Yeah. So when you prompted something when you said that, because you've been obviously an expert in chief product officer, and you probably know that you know that area like the back of your hand. And it's amazing because I found this to be consistent in just about everyone that I've talked to, even in my own personal experience, that when it comes to entrepreneurship and running the business, that you realize, okay, yeah, I may be an expert in this particular field, but as it relates to business and running the business, there are still some things that I need to learn.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself in a position to where, I mean, are you still in the process of educating yourself? Do you read books, or, I mean, how do you tackle those issues? Okay, yeah, this is an area that I need to maybe learn something about.
Mhm.
What are some of the things that you do to kind of make sure that you kind of correct whatever mistakes you may have made previously, so that they don't necessarily happen again down the line?
Yeah, I would think the biggest thing when I think about where I am now is I underestimated how much business development work
Mm,
that I would be
yeah,
doing, right?
yeah,
Because it's like once I'm in the project and we're talking and we're in my wheelhouse, that's like it's rotten memory. It's just it's just normal. It's just the way I think, and it's in all of the expertise is in there. um but when you think about business development and marketing is very different when you're
yes,
marketing yourself
yep,
versus when you're marketing a product or a brand or something like that.
hmm,
So the business development, the marketing, the kind of the networking grind that you're doing to get your new brand out there.
hmm,
I underestimated how much of that would be required at first, and how continuous it is. It's a continuous, cycle of planting seeds,
yeah,
because you might be talking this. I go to 2 or 3 networking events a week, right?
hmm,
And I may be talking to someone who needs what CBR Ventures provides, but they don't need it today. they
Right.
know, down the road. So it's kind of that a conversation that happened yesterday may not develop into anything until 6 months down the road, right? But you got to keep constantly doing that because you are your own lead gen engine, right?
Yep.
As well.
Yep.
So so it's just a different kind of perspective when you are the it. You're the
Yeah.
you're the one, and you got to go and do it all. So for me, I really take my it comes back down to that time management that I was really good at back at Grambling, going to class and going to the parties, of slicing my time up so that I'm doing all the things that I need to do to operate this business, but also doing the things that I need to do to give my clients the time and the value that they're paying me for.
We're going to put this information in the description, obviously. But Carlisha, how can people contact you if they need to, if they want
Yeah,
to
so
secure your services?
Yeah, so they can contact me. Go to cbrventures.com, www.cbrventures.com, and you can email me at Carlisha, Carlisha, at cbrventures.com, or reach out to me on LinkedIn. There's only one Carlisha Robinson.
I told you guys she was brilliant. I told you she was brilliant, and you see why she's worthy of being an HBCU Titan. She is my sister from another mister. Carlisha, sister, best of luck to you going forward. You know I'm rooting for you
Appreciate it.
100%. I love you, and thank you so much for taking a few minutes to fit me into your schedule to record this interview.
Of course, no problem. I thank you very much. I appreciate it and proud of you as well.
All right, man.
Harriet and Rachel are smiling.
They will see. My
Yes,
mom will see this. She certainly will.
yes.
All right, lady. That's all we
All
need.
right. Thank you.
All right.